may not be suitable for all audiences.
I trust you're alone.
No, I got the Vienna Boys Choir with me.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Scholars, welcome back to another episode of Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. I'm a professional artist and master educator attempting to provide you with the best in art historical content. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and do all those things to help me out, and I'll do the best I can to help you out with a little bit of information.
Well, not bowled over, to be honest.
So through a recent poll, the viewers of Art 101 have spoken. They want Edvard Munch information provided, so you have asked, and I will provide. Here we go. The one to get Norway on the map was the innovator of the visual arts, Edvard Munch. Born the second of 5 children in Norway to his father, Christian, that was a medical doctor, and his mom, who took care of the kids, the family would move on to Oslo in 1864. His mother, Laura, who died of tuberculosis when Munch was only 5 years old, would be very much affected by this. Now, this exact same fate would be met by his older sister Sophie when she was just 15 years old and he was but 14. Another of his sisters was diagnosed with a mental illness around this time, and Munch himself would also deal with sickness and was believed to have some sort of bipolar type disorder. Essentially, he needed an escape from his home reality, the anxiety and the worry and the death that was all around him.
I will crush you!
He began his studies in higher education in an engineering program in November of 1879 and would move on to the School of Design under Julius Middlethurn and the painter Christian Krong in 1881. Munch was very much a devoted student of various forms of art, including film and photography. After receiving some training in Paris, Edvard Munch would begin creating his most loved artwork that he had ever created, and it's not the one you're thinking of. Around 1886, he began painting the sick child. He was remembering his sister's death and was very much working on this particular painting. He would say, "I followed the impressions my eye took me in at the heightened moments. I painted only memories, adding nothing, no detail that I did not see." It is safe to say that this type of painting was very much therapeutic to Edvard Munch. It helped him deal with the death of his sister, it helped him deal with the death of his mother, and so many others that he probably crossed along the way because of his father's occupation as a medical doctor.
This is a house of learned doctors.
Although Edvard Munch considered The Sick Child the greatest work that he had ever produced, the general public and the history of art would consider the most known and famous of his works, probably the greatest of his works, to be The Scream. In a career that lasted for 51 years after creating this work, sadly, his career had been defined by this particular Scream work. There are actually 5 versions of this painting that he had created. There are some, like this one, that shows the influence of Vincent van Gogh with the creation of the sky that's very much like Starry Night, other than the stars, as well as some very strong romantic elements. The red sky in the work is believed to be an account of a very, very bright red sunset that was visible in 1883 after the eruption of a very large volcano in Indonesia, and this work would make him respected around the world. In fact, after a cultural revolution in China, Munch became the first Western artist to have his work placed in the National Gallery in Beijing. Although his works are very popular and valuable today, he did not ever think that they would ever be sold at these sorts of levels in the late 1800s.
I don't think so.
Edvard Munch also took some time to get involved with a bit of a love affair. He met a lady by the name of Tula Larsen in late 1898. She was 30 years old and at that time considered very much an old maid. At any rate, they took a trip to Italy and France, and Tula was very much less than satisfied with the relationship. About 4 years into this, she came up to him with some horrible news. She had told Monk that she was dying. She knew how much death was affecting him and had affected him in the past with his mother and his sister and the whole thing, and she didn't want him to have to deal with her. Although she was expressing these concerns, he refused to leave her side. After some back and forth, she would admit that this whole thing was a lie. She wasn't dying at all, she just wanted to get out of the relationship. However, he wasn't quite so quick to cut things off. He wanted to keep it going. After some debate, she pulled a gun and threatened suicide. Munch would try to get the gun from her, but the gun had fired and it hit him. A shot went right through his hand and the joint of one of his fingers. He would be plagued with anxiety, a nervous breakdown, heavy drinking, and depression throughout this time and beyond.
When I was young, I used to always have relations every night.
In 1937, 82 of his works of art, which were owned by German museums and galleries, would be considered degenerate by Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. These works were confiscated and sold to get him out of the country and allowed them to make some money and collect some other works, well, steal some other works. In 1940, Norway was considered occupied by Germany. Munch refused to have any sort of association with the Nazis and was very concerned with his safety as well as the safety of his children, or his paintings. His outspoken anti-Nazi nature won him a lot of respect with the Americans, who gave him his first show in the United States in 1942. This is the same year that the United States entered World War II. He continued to work what was very much reserved from most people. He died peacefully shortly after his 80th birthday in 1944 during a bout of pneumonia. All of his personal artwork, this includes 1,008 paintings, 1,500 prints, 4,443 drawings and watercolors, and 6 sculptures, were all left to the city of Oslo. The city would open up a museum in his honor in 1963 on the day that would have been his 100th birthday. A bizarre character and an interesting life, and he battled through and used art as a therapy to help himself and maybe to help others cope with the things that they were dealing with. And at the end of the day, I think that's a very valuable tool that more people should utilize, especially with the prevalence of mental illness and mental things that we all deal with in our daily lives. I hope you enjoy receiving that information as much as I love being able to bring it to you. You have yourself a good day. We'll see you next time.
Well, headbangers, wasn't that one a real smash?